far as I know, Stacy, that name wasn't changed. I would like to get that information from Tim. Tim has a lot of
Genetic stuff.
genealogy.
Yeah, because Granny Hall got into that.
Yeah, she got a lot of information.
It's probably in his house.
Yeah.
While we're at it, why don't we go through y'all's family tree, Granny and Papa, your sister and your brothers. How many?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. Oldest being Butch. He's a junior, L.V. Lewis, after my dad. And then I'm 2 years younger. And Mark Allen is 2 years younger than myself. Mark being named after one of the disciples. Elaine is my sister, and she's 8 years younger. And Timothy, Tim, named after one of the men of the Bible, named after 2 of them, Timothy David. He's the youngest. He's 10 years younger than myself. Butch is retired, I'm retired, Mark's retired, Elaine's retired, Tim's retired, he's on disability.
And they're all still living, praise the Lord.
All living. I worked probably most of my life would be at the post office. I started in the early 70s, worked 24 years at the post office.
Before that, you were a welder.
No, I was what they call layout man. I would take blueprints and put the blueprints on the material and steel. They needed.
You didn't do welding?
Not as a living, no.
Oh. I thought when you worked for Plant City Steel, you were a welder there?
I tack welded.
Oh.
I wasn't.
I didn't know there was a difference.
Yeah.
You can make my name with steel, so that's something.
Yeah, I could burn.
It impresses a lot of people that are welders when they see that.
Yeah.
And I say my dad did it, and they say, "Wow."
Yeah, I could burn with a acetylene torch.
You had some talent there.
Yeah. And then, like I said, I'd lay out whatever they needed on.
Like an engineer?
No, not an engineer.
Or for the engineer?
An engineer tells you how much a certain beam would hold up a house or building or whatever. And then I would take that beam, if it needed holes punched in it, where the holes would be punched in, how long the beam would be, or if it was what they call a plate, which is, it could be anywhere from 3/16 up to a 2-inch steel plate. It could be anywhere from 12 to 18 foot wide, 20 foot long. It'd take you probably a day and a half, lay it out, depending on what all the blueprints required.
And how long were you there at Plant City Steel?
I was there about 8 years my first time, then I left there and went to law engineering in Orlando. It's for structural steel inspecting. I did a lot of inspecting at Disney World and different places.
Didn't you do Space Mountain or something, inspect it?
I inspected Space Mountain. I inspected
Because I think you told me one time if I seen it with the lights on, I probably wouldn't want to get on it.
Probably a lot of people wouldn't. Whenever they were constructing it, they'd come by with a piece of paper. If you wanted to write it before they opened it, you could sign that paper and you could write it. They built a model out of plywood with a man's hands up. Well, when it came down, the man didn't have any hands. So they had to move some piping and things like that until they got it right. So, but it was a fascinating place.
What do you think about what's going on with Disney now?
I think Walt Disney would be very disappointed. I don't think he had that in mind at all.
Me neither.
I worked on quite a few rides there. Wedway, which was kind of neat because I helped construct that at Plant City Steel. And then I got to see the finishing product when I got to Disney.
Oh, that's cool.
Wedway was a ride that would take you from one park to another park to another park.
I think they still have it there, don't they?
Yeah, they still have that. They call it Wedway. Walt Edward Disney.
Oh, that's what the WED stands for.
Wedway.
I didn't know that.
And then I worked on Pirates of the Caribbean, and I worked on the Carousel of Progress. Oh, many rides. That was a very interesting, good job. I wish I wouldn't left that place, that job, that company.
Was that the best job, like as far as all the jobs that you had? How many different jobs have you had in your life?
Well, I worked, I don't know how many different jobs. I worked when I was 15 loading trucks for 15 cents an hour.
Whoa, that must have been the olden days.
That was right there off of Alexander and Bowman.
What would that be, like in the 60s?
That was in the 60s, 65. They had trucks that came in. We had to load them off the freezer or from the truck to the freezer. That was my first job. And then I was the first employee at Burger Shack. I put in light bulbs. And I cleaned and stuff before that it ever opened up.
Cool.
And I had put in application at a Salada Tea that we have. It's changed names now. It's off of Haynes Street. And I worked there and I made some big money. I think I made $4 an hour. I think I worked at one time in between. I'm not sure what. It must have been just a short period of time, maybe a week or a couple of days. I worked at Paradise Fruit.
Oh.
And it wasn't very long. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it was just something to fill in.
Till you got something better.
Till I got something better. And then I worked at Bell's Air Conditioning. Worked there maybe 9 months. Went to the Strawberry Festival with Faye. I won a teddy bear. No, I won a dog, stuffed dog. Next day I got my draft notice.
Oh, wow. What year was that?
That was 1969. I proposed to Faye.
Before that, or
Before that.
Did that?
It was March the 3rd. So Strawberry Festival was sometime in March.
So you asked her before you got drafted?
My draft notice. Yeah.
Did you know that you were going to get drafted?
No. I took a.
Because a lot of people, that's why they proposed. It's because they got drafted and they wanted to get married.
I went to drafting school in Tampa. I thought I wanted to be a draftsman, but what I wanted to be was someone that designed homes.
Because you can draw so well.
And so I found out I didn't like all the math that was involved in it. You had to figure out how much a beam would hold up, how much this would hold up, how much stress it would be on, and I wasn't interested, so I dropped out. I quit. That's when I got my draft notice, because they said that was college, I was going to college.
Oh.
This was during the Vietnam.
Yeah. So how long after the draft notice until you actually had to go to, what was it, boot camp?
2 weeks.
What?
2 weeks.
You got a draft notice and 2 weeks later you were expected?
2 weeks I was in Fort Benning, Georgia.
What? Wow. Were you scared?
Not at that particular time, no. I didn't have enough sense to be scared.
You were too young.
Yeah, too young and dumb.
Did you believe in the cause?
No. I went in as a conscientious objector.
I need to pause the video. I have never heard that in my life. I have no idea where I get my rebellious spirit from. I have never in my life even thought that my dad could even be a conscientious observer. Wow.
Why not?
I just assumed that, because a lot of people back then did, they were being told, the media was telling them one thing, and, a lot of people went in thinking they were doing the right thing, and then they got over there, and then, once their boots were on the ground, they realized it wasn't what they were being told, then they wanted out or whatever. But a lot of people, from what I've heard, in different interviews, a lot of people just didn't know before they went in.
Well, my brother Butch, he went in as a conscientious objector.
Before you did?
Yes, he was in before I was.
Same war?
Same war, but he decided against the conscientious objector, and he changed it, and he went in. He was sent to Korea. Of course, that's where he met Sue.
Aunt Sue.
And he told me he did that all on his own. Wasn't persuaded or nothing.
Did he actually fight over there? Because I'm a little ignorant about
Korea
where
war,
we were at that,
Korean
what countries.
War, we still have men over there.
Well, yeah.
We have
I think anytime we go in, we don't leave.
We always have men there.
Yeah.
And he was protecting it's called parallel zone. I'm not sure of the title.
Like a military?
North and the south.
Installment or something they had there?
North and south Korea. North was communist, south was not. And anytime they try to invade, then they would.
North Korea?
Yes. When a North Korean would try to invade, they would strike. Yeah.
Which was from Aunt Sue from south or north?
Yes, south.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it was still rough back
yeah.
then.
Yeah, it was still rough. Yeah. And then.
So let's get back to you.
So I went from Fort Benning. I was there thinking a couple weeks. Got all my shots.
Boot camp?
No.
It's just like where they're processing you?
Processing, then I went from there, I went to,
How many shots did they give you back then?
I don't know.
And you don't know what
10,
it was?
10, 15.
Do you know what it was they put inside your body?
Nah.
Most of them don't.
And I remember it was March because there was snow on the ground when we was in Fort Benning. We stripped down to our bottom shorts, standing in line to get no shots.
In the cold.
In the freezing cold. No shoes on.
Like 5 shots? 10 shots?
No, probably 10 or 15.
Wow.
And then I went to Fort Sam Houston, Texas, to be a medic. And that's where I went to boot camp. Did boot camp. I don't know this for a fact, but I may have contracted something from a gas mask. You had to go into a tent.
Train.
For training in the boot camp, when you was in the field, and take off your mask and give your rank and serial number. Your name, rank, serial number. My gas mask, it never did work. But
So you had to have the gas mask on
yeah.
when you went inside like a room?
Yeah, when you went in that room, in that tent, you had your gas mask on.
Why?
Because they had gas in there.
They gassed you?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. You had tear gas or some kind of gas.
What?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Why did they do to y'all? Was it, wait,
That was
is
part
your
of
people?
That was part of your training,
If they did that to you in boot camp?
in case you got captured.
Oh.
Sure. Sure they did.
But your mask wasn't
Bivouac,
working right.
you carried a pack on your back, you carried a shovel, a tent, medical equipment, gas mask,
I'm glad I decided
helmet.
against going into the military.
shaving, everything you needed, you carried on your back. And then you went through that.
But they gassed you?
Oh yeah.
And the
they
mask
gassed-
didn't
they
work?
gassed everybody, yeah.
Did you pass out?
No, I didn't pass out. But I was sick after that.
Yeah, what? Go into that a little bit. Because you did you ever get boots on the ground? And were you ever in Vietnam?
No, I had orders to go. I never went. I finished boot camp. I didn't want to.
But because they made you sick.
Well, they made me sick.
Right.
Well, I don't know who made me sick.
They're never going to admit it, but
I was
you
sick.
didn't just get sick.
I finished my boot camp, which they do different things. To finish you up, it's 30 days. I didn't want to do a recycle.
Yeah.
What they call recycle.
You have to stop and do it again.
You have to go through the whole thing again. So I waited till my 30 days was up. By then I was pretty sick.
How did they figure out, what happened? Did you pass out or?
Well, no, I told the sergeant, I said, I don't feel good, I'm going to the hospital to get checked out. So the hospital was Brook General Hospital, which was on the base. It was probably from where we were, where our barracks were, I guess it was probably a mile. And I walked. I walked down. I remember it was in the evening sometime because it was almost dark. By the time I got there, it was dark. I walked into the hospital at the ER, and I told them I didn't feel good. So, of course, the first thing they do is, you know, your blood pressure, your
temperature, all
that, vitals, you know. And my temperature was 105.
Mm.
And so they admitted me.
Yeah.
And by that time, my left leg had swollen up.
Mm.
So probably twice the size, normal size.
Wow.
Probably about that big. And of course it was all kind of colors, and it was red, blue, black, green, yellow, purple. And I was a sick puppy, I'll tell you.
Yeah. What was it though? What did they?
They ran a test on me. My left hand also did the same thing. It swollen up to where it was paralyzed.
Oh my goodness.
And it was the same thing in the coloration. And, so they didn't know what was going on. So they wanted to do a spinal tap.
Oh Lord.
Well, they did all kind of blood work, all kind of tests.
Yeah.
And then they did a spinal tap. I don't know why they didn't do it in my back, which is normally where they do it. They didn't do it in my back, they did it in my chest. And that needle was, that sucker, it was big.
Mm.
And I was sore right there in the middle of my chest for probably over a year.
Wow.
And I mean, that doctor, he got on my chest and he had a hard time getting that needle in.
Ugh. Yeah,
Anyway.
you gotta go through your breastplate.
Yeah. Anyway, he got the bone marrow and everything come back. They named it Ryder's disease. They named it rheumatic fever. I was placed on a regimen of aspirin every hour.
Did they say that it was from the shots or from the gas?
They didn't
or,
say.
you know,
They didn't say that. First thing
because you were in a military
they
hospital.
asked me if I was around farm animals. I said no, not unless
What?
there's any out there in the field of bivouac. If there's some out there, I didn't see them. But I was not a
farmer.
I wasn't a farmer. I didn't live on a farm.
Huh. What do you think? What, maybe not now, what at the time did you think was going on with your body? Do you know what you suspected
I
it?
was just sick.
You didn't suspect the shots?
No.
You've never suspected the shots, Dad?
No. If it was the shots, there'd be more than me. There would have been more than me that got sick. It could have been the gas. Could have been. Because I was good and healthy before that. So, anyways, they named all kind of names. I was in there a couple of weeks. By then, I couldn't walk.
Mm. It was getting worse.
Yeah, it was getting worse.
They didn't expect
Anytime
you to survive, I'm sure.
they took me off the aspirin, my fever would spike back up.
Wow.
I'm talking about aspirin. They wake me up every hour, 24 hours a day, to take that aspirin. And then they took me down, put me on a big table, laid me on a table. It's kind of like, see on the movie where you see the doctors up above
Oh,
looking
yeah,
down
an
in the
operating room, like an operating
window. Kinda
room.
like operating.
I think it's a theater, they call it a operating theater.
Yeah, and there was all kind of doctors up there, and, they had this famous rheumatologist that came
Mm,
somewhere east.
Yeah.
Came out.
special case.
Special case, so. He checked on my records, checked me out, laid me on the table. It told me at that time